Okay, this is lesson 613, Making Lip Balm, 4th grade, page 224. It's the end of Unit 6, and everybody is very excited. Hooray. Today we're talking about grouping things, where we kind of multiplying, but thinking of it in a grouping fashion. So we're dealing with, supposedly, the ingredients for making lip balm. I don't know if it works. I've never tried it. I guess if you're really bored and your parents are okay with it and you happen to have these ingredients, you can try it and report back. Or not. I'm not going to try it. Regardless, here's what they're asking. They're saying that lip balm protects your lips from chapping. That's true. It can be made at home with help from an adult. That's apparently true too. The ingredients below are for one batch, and a batch fills 4 small tubes. This will be important to keep in mind. When you crank out a batch, it's going to be enough to fill out 4 tubes, not just 1, but 4. And here's what they say you need. 4 teaspoons of beeswax. Good luck finding beeswax. I don't think that's one of those items that a lot of people have at home, but go ahead and prove me wrong. 2 teaspoons of shea butter, 3 teaspoons of almond oil, and 1/8 to 1 teaspoon of flavoring oil. So it looks like there's a range here. There's not necessarily just one set amount. So they want us to solve a few things below, and they tell us to use drawings, to use our words and equations to represent the problems. So Yasmin, in this case, made 2 batches of lemon lip balm. So that'd be enough for 8 sticks, if I'm not mistaken. But the question they want to know is how many teaspoons of almond oil did she use? So this is for 1 batch. And for 1 batch, we use 3 teaspoons of almond oil. So the question is, for 2 batches, if you were to double it, how many teaspoons of almond oil would you use then? And the way they want you to think about it, maybe we'll start with the words. How many groups of almond oil are we going to use now? This is 1 group right here, and since we're making 2 batches, we're going to use 2 groups of what? How many teaspoons? Of 3 teaspoons. Okay, this is to help you guys visualize what's actually happening here. And the addition equation in this case, they kind of set the table for you really nicely. You're basically going to take the 3 teaspoons, and what are you going to add? What's the second batch? How many teaspoons in the second batch? 3. And how many teaspoons of almond oil is that going to be total? 6. Now, for some of you, you might be saying, this is a lot of they're really breaking this down further than we need to, because I bet a few of you really quickly were like, oh, if 1 batch is 3, and we have 2 batches, that's just going to be 2 times 3. They've got that for you too. So the whole point here, and again our answer is going to be 6 teaspoons, is to help you visualize and realize, first of all, what's actually happening when we do 2 times 3. And not only that, but to show you there's actually a lot of different ways to crack an egg. I don't know if that's the real saying. There's more than one way to add 3 teaspoons of almond oil, I guess. I did forget the drawing. The drawing is really as simple as this. You know I like to use circles. So how many teaspoons do we have for 1 batch? 3. So here's batch 1. And if you had to make a second batch, how many teaspoons will be in that second batch too? 3. So how many teaspoons do we see here all together? And I'm not even going to put numbers inside. You can count those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 teaspoons. Okay, if you really want, I think the drawing's gonna be a little bit different on this one, so maybe I'll show you the drawing. I'll let you guys fill in the rest here. We're gonna move from just me doing it. I'm going to offload this onto you. So let's take a look at number 2, where they're talking about, excuse me, cinnamon flavoring. So do you remember that we had a range between 1/8 of a teaspoon to 1 whole teaspoon? They say here that cinnamon flavoring oil is super strong, so they only use 1/8 of a teaspoon for a batch of lip balm. So I'm guessing if the flavor is not so strong, they can use more. But with cinnamon, you want to be careful. And as some of you may recall, I had to learn that lesson the hard way, when I innocently poured a spoon of cinnamon into my friend's mouth, having no idea how much fun that is not. That was before the cinnamon challenge became a thing. Anyway, back on topic. We're dealing with 1/8 of a teaspoon. And they're making 5 batches of lip balm. So for the drawing, I just wanted to point this out to you guys. I think you can handle the groups in this case. The drawing's not necessarily going to be just an 1/8 here, although I guess that could work. I was thinking something like this, taking a fraction circle, breaking him into 8 pieces. 2, 4, and then we'll do a couple of diagonals. 6, 8. And how much of an entire teaspoon are we using for one batch? Just one of these 8s. So here's how much you would use for the second batch. One of these 8s. Oh, bad job coloring. For the third circle, one of these 8s. That's the third batch. Fourth batch, one of these 8s. If this is driving you crazy with how mundane or boring this is, and you can think of a better drawing that will also show that there's 1/8 being represented and used for each batch, feel free to create your own drawing that shows that. But here's what we did here. So now we have 1/8 in batch 1, another 1/8 here, a third 1/8 there, a fourth 1/8, then another 1/8. So there's your groups of 8. That's generally what we're going to be doing for the majority of this lesson. The pictures are going to be helpful as you move on, because this one's going to work out pretty cleanly, but there's going to be a few. I think one uses 3/4 of a teaspoon later, and that might end up being something you need to draw out just to visualize and see what's actually happening. Okay guys, any questions, as always, let me know. Hopefully this works out. Do not pour cinnamon into each other's mouths. I'm not kidding. That's not a fun scenario. Anyway, I will see you guys for Chapter 7.